the fact that California has looked at taxpayers as the problem is exactly what you're talking about in a slightly different, modified way, but that you are basically, you got a target on your back because you pay taxes and play by the rules in California.
You're the problem.
You're the problem. That's right.
And so how does that get changed? This is what I'm constantly asking you. How do we push back? How does the pendulum swing?
We'll ask Chad. Chad?
Hey, what's going on, gentlemen?
What's going on?
Hey, yeah, I just heard you guys talking about the debate and, figured you guys had seen it. Did you guys also see that poll recently showing that Bernie Sanders is potentially going to sweep California? Is that what your guys are getting with the vibe out there, or what do you guys think about that?
That would make sense. That would fit with California.
Whatever the worst ideas are, that's what we implement in California. We just take we take the least realistic ideas there are on the planet and we roll them right out. That's what we do.
Well, it's funny because last night nobody was hitting at Bernie Sanders. Everyone was going for Bloomberg, and the front runner was left unattacked, and it just is foolish if everyone's freaking out about the communists. And it's funny because they were also, I heard a couple of the other nominees like Warren, scoffing when Bloomberg hit him with a communist, tag. And that just, sums up the Democratic Party perfectly nowadays.
Well, it's, again, this communism thing isn't old. It's been around. I always think of it as less an infatuation with communism, more just a pushback against the man sort of thing. There's really nothing. There's nothing to like about communism in Russia. By the way, it's just a bunch of drunk white guys who are corrupt. This notion of we went there, we honeymooned there. They're beautiful chandeliers. What the fuck? The train stations are spotless. Yeah, because they fucking put you in a gulag if you spit gum out. We could have one of those societies too. You don't want stop and frisk, so you want clean train stations, Bernie. You're marveling at Russia's train stations and how spotless they are. Well, that's why.
Why doesn't he talk to Yakov Smirnoff?
He should talk to Yakov Smirnoff, who I see at the Comedy Store all the time. Look, there's a group of people that want to rebel. And I get it, and those are the Bernie fans. He doesn't have anything to offer. He couldn't implement anything, and he's also I think he's an imbecile. I really do. He's got a lot of conviction. I think he's a pompous ass. The reason I think he's a pompous ass is because he speaks with incredible authority about shit he knows nothing about that's impossible to implement.
Well, I'll just never forget that interview at CNN. How do you explain you made $1 million for writing a book? You should really why don't you make $1 million? Like, I know you are, but what am I? That's his response?
Yeah. No, she said, why don't you just pay, you want 70% taxes. Why don't you pay 70%? So, by the way, what you're saying is I'd like to implement a 70% tax bracket or tax percentage. So she said, the logical question, why don't you then do that?
Why don't you pay 70% of your money?
Do it voluntarily.
Yeah.
Do it volitionally.
It's such a good idea.
It's a great idea. Why would that be a bad thing? And then he went, well, why don't you?
Why don't you? It's crazy.
Well, because I don't want it. I want it lower.
Talking about pompous ass.
He's a pompous ass.
That's pompous.
No, he's a fucking idiot. I mean, he's an idiot disguised as he's a super sincere idiot who's also pompous ass.
Here it is. Here's the moment.
You recommended a wealth tax, 70% wealth tax.
No, actually, I didn't. That was
77%.
No, I think another person.
What's your number?
What's my number? Well, I'll tell you what I think. I think that in order to make sure that elderly people...
What's your number?
Continue to live
old
in poverty,
coot. We asked for your number. Hold on, pause it.
All
right. He said 70. She said 70. Then she said 77.
Yeah.
Then he said, no, that wasn't me. Then she said, what's your number?
Yeah.
All right. Say the number. Say it. And then you can talk about the elderly. But here we go.
Trying to get by at $13,000 or $14,000 a year. I think we should raise that cap for people making $250,000 or more so we can make sure that our parents can live out their lives in dignity. I'll tell you what else I think. I think at a time when Wall Street is doing phenomenally well.
Hold on, pause it. See, there's a big thing. Here it is. He's made a leap. His leap is we got to raise taxes on people that make $250,000 or more so that the elderly can live out their life in dignity. You think that's how it's going to work?
Yeah.
Or are you just going to take the money?
Right.
See, if I could be assured that me paying some extra percentage points after 250 would assure that the elderly could live out their life in dignity. Don't be an asshole, by the way. What the fuck, indignity? Okay, that's up to you to decide whether you take. Then fine. That doesn't mean you guys collecting all the money and then spending it on a fucking bullet train.
And do we have an
That's
epidemic
going nowhere.
of elderly people living in horrible circumstances? Or do we have mentally ill people living in horrible
All right,
circumstances?
sorry. Keep rolling.
And we have millions of young people who are deeply in debt for the crime of having gone to college. I believe we should pass a speculation tax
Well,
on
that's
Wall
fine,
Street.
but I'm asking you about the wealthy and how much higher you would make it. You said
Yeah, I
you don't
got
agree
that.
with 70%. What would your number be?
In the campaign in 2016, we talked about 52%.
All right, so 52%. So would you be willing to pay 52% on the money that you made?
Awesome.
You can volunteer. You can send a
Oh,
check.
you can volunteer too. We have a.
But you suggested that
Hey,
that's what
Martha.
everybody in your bracket should do.
And Martha, why don't you give? You make more money than I do.
Well,
Why
I
don't you
didn't
give?
suggest a wealth tax.
And she's not running for president.
And
All
I'm
right,
not
but
running
we're
for
going to fight for a wealth tax, and we're going to demand that we end.
All right, he's
the
a pompous
absurdity.
ass. He's a fucking idiot. First off, the person's when you get interviewed, people are allowed to ask questions.
Yeah.
They're not really supposed to go, "Why don't you do it?" It's not answering a question.
Right.
You've suggested something. Look, I tell people to jump in a cold pool every morning. If somebody says, "Why don't you do it?" I go, "I do it." Drew suggested people have a high protein diet, low carbs. Why don't you do it? He does do it. Okay.
Yeah. It's all simple.
He doubled down. Like, he's like, "Why don't you do it?" And then she's like, "I'm not suggesting. You make more money than me." Which, by the way, Bernie comes from a world where he can win every argument by just accusing someone of making more money
being
than
successful.
him. Yeah. You make, then you do it. It's like, what up? First off, I never really realized what an arrogant douche he is. You know, he hides behind the sort of weird grandpa and the fucked up hair, and he seems like a disheveled professor, but he's really like an angry, arrogant douche. And also he has no sense of himself.
Perfect for California.
Perfect for California. He has no sense of himself. Like, why? You understand how you're coming across? Now, I guess a sensible question would be, or a sensible response would be, I could pay 52%. Maybe I should. Obviously, for what I'm talking about, that's not going to change anything.
And by the way, what is it, 22% in the state of California? So you add the two and it'd be at 74% here, California.
Right. All right.